I'm Amal Amin, preferably Amal. My friends told me to name me Amal. I live in Cairo, Egypt. I am professor at National Research Center in Egypt. My field is polymers technology and nanotechnology. So that I'm working in material science. Also, I have many more activities and positions all over the world as head and founder of many organizations like Women in Science Without Borders, Global Young Academy, World Forum for Women in Science, Science Diplomacy for the Future, member of ORCID Board of Directors, and many more positions.
Thank you. So, can you also tell us a little bit about your work and what difference your work makes? And if you have a story you'd like to share with us that really demonstrates the difference your work makes, that would be wonderful too.
I considered my story began from the beginning when I decided to make my PhD outside Egypt because I am from conservative family and I was very young and where I married very young, by the way. He was my colleague at the university, so that we decided to make our PhDs in Germany. So that I decided at the time with small family, with little daughter, to travel to Germany to make my PhD. But unfortunately, on the way, on my return back to my home, Egypt, it was the day of terrorist attacks on US. It was the 11th of September. You imagine that
Yes.
the airports, all the airports were closed. It was the night of terrorist attack. All the airports were closed. My luggages were lost, and I found all the world became upside down. So that at this moment, I decided that the world must be changed, but in a better way for new generations, for our future challenges, for our daughters, sons, and for everything for humanity. So that I decided to become change maker. But my tool for change, I choose science because I found it's the logic way to change the world, away from all considerations, political, religious, gender issues, and so on. So that I choose science from this time. So that I consider myself that I challenged myself at this time, and then I began my journey from this moment. So that I began by technology transfer, where I learned nanotechnology and the catalysis in Germany. So I began to transfer the technology I learned to Egypt and began to found many organizations where I started with founding the first with colleagues at the first association or society for nanotechnology in Egypt, and the network for nanotechnology in the Arab world in Egypt and all the Arab world. And also I began to the next level to organize many activities and to establish many networks inside Egypt. By the way, from the beginning, I committed to establish multidisciplinary networks because I consider myself as a change maker, so that if I want to change, I have to change the society itself, so that I have to make this connection between the society and the scientists. Because usually the scientists are considered as ivory tower inhabitants. They don't feel about the society or the problems, blah, blah, blah. They only make publications and that's all. So that from the beginning, I consider to make multidisciplinary networks. That means networks between scientists, policymakers, public, industry, all the stakeholders together. And then after these activities, I was selected as distinguished young scientist to become member in TUAS. It's the World Academy for Sciences in Developing Worlds. And afterward, I was chosen to become one of the representatives of the distinguished young science from all over the world to attend Davos, Summer Davos in China. At this moment, I consider it as inflection point because
Yes.
at this summit, I found that Davos wanted to make new direction to consider scientists as young scientists as future change makers. So that IEB, it's the network of academies of science all over the world with Davos, decided to make a little summit for young scientists at this Davos I think it was 2009 in China. And at this summit, we were 40 young, distinguished young scientists from all over the world, and we decided to establish my first international organization. I was one of the co-founders, and I was the only representative from Egypt, by the way, and female, and it was honor for me. And we decided to establish the Global Young Academy. It was my first international organization. As I told you that it was new direction and a new initiative from Davos and the network for science academies, from science academies to empower the young scientists to become the future leaders. So that we agreed to make the Global Young Academy or establish the Global Young Academy to be as a platform for distinguished young scientists from all over the world to enhance the status of science as a change tools, as a change tool all over the world, and also to encourage the international relations and to raise the profile of science all over the world and consider it as the main tool for development all over the world and also share in changing the science and technology policies worldwide and also to be change makers and future science and technology leaders in all countries and all the world. And from that point, I consider myself to begin my journey, the real journey. I told you that I had one start when I returned back from Germany, or maybe before when I decided to make my PhD, or maybe before when I started to read about the world and the travels. I had several role models from scientists. I considered them from the beginning as the change makers. But from the station of establishing Global Young Academy, I considered myself it's the real start, where I started conversations with scientists from all over the world, from developing and developed worlds, and we worked. And we considered that and discovered that we have all the same problems, but in different perspectives. We all humans, and we have the similar concerns. We all humans, really, we all humans. So that if you consider myself as American or I consider myself as Egyptians, but finally we are all humans. And if you look back to COVID-19, you will find one problem happened in China, affected all the world. So that it's the butterfly effect. If anything happens in any place in the world, it will affect all the world because we are in the same world. So that we have to share together to change this world to a better place for the new generations and so on. So that from this time, I consider changing the mindsets themselves because it's changing not with policies only, not with funds, but with changing the mindsets, with affecting the people. The real change is from bottom to up, from the people themselves. So that I started on two levels, on the level of society and the level of people, the level of society and people and the level of scientists, because it's my community, so that I can communicate with them effectively and affect them to consider the total stakeholders or the whole stakeholders inside the society to begin that change. So that I started to establish new organizations like Women in Science Without Borders, which, by the way, it's not only for women, but I adopted the Sustainable Development Goals. So that if we look to the Sustainable Development Goals, we will find that we have to cooperate with each others. But the main problem all over the world is the marginalized communities, the gender issues, and the blah, blah, blah. And they wouldn't accept to be scientists and be classified as woman scientists. I don't accept that. I am a scientist. So
Yes.
that one of the organizations I established is Women in Science Without Borders, and I titled it as Women to pay the attention that we are not working for women or we are not against men. We are working for one organization and one society and one world. And we have to have inclusive communities to work together to establish new development, real development, because we need new work. New work means inclusive, cooperative, uh, more tolerant work. We
Yes.
have to have word without classification. And then afterward, Women in Science Without Borders, I made a new initiative. It's called the Science Diplomacy for the Future, because one aspect of science that it may act as a diplomatic way of understanding between societies and nations, because it's logic, so that we can cooperate, we can talk together in logic way in science. And then afterward, I made the World Forum for Women in Science. It's a annual event to gather all stakeholders. By the way, Women in Science Without Borders, it's now in 70 countries, Global Young Academy in 85 countries. It's a mixture between developed and developing so that we have both voices. And Women in Science Without Borders, it has diverse members, diverse audience, because it considers all stakeholders, including scientists, policymakers, public, youth, and industry, and also media. Media is main partner of all our events and all our activities.
That's
And
right.
also, I meet several organizations and made several initiatives like Youth Science Forum, which I consider that one main pillar of a change or in the future is the youth. And we couldn't ignore them. And
Yes.
we have to consider them in all our activities so that I consider them in my activity, in my main activities, and I established for them new initiatives. And
Thank you.
also, one main aim for scientific activities is to enhance the status of science inside society as a main tool for change, so that we have to enhance the 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 action of science in the society. So that I established a North African Society for Research and Innovation Management to enhance the procedure, how to transfer science into society, how to benefit from the scientific outputs to solve the problems, the societal problems, to enhance the curricula of science, to make the real development on a real basis. So that I established the NARIMA. NARIMA is North African Society for Research and Innovation Management. And afterward, now under many, many more organizations. And afterward, now I'm establishing a new organization. It's called Science for Humanity. Science for Humanity, it will run programs to train the scientists to raise their skills, in many fields like science communication. Science communication, they have to communicate. Usually, we said that we have no funds. We couldn't. The policymakers don't appreciate us or something like that. But I consider myself, as I told you that in the beginning, as a messenger, so that
Yes.
I have to begin these communications, but I have to
Yes.
learn it, so that they have to learn it. Also, we will have mentoring program and some programs to train the scientists to make science diplomacy, science advice, how they communicate with policymakers and with to make good international relations to benefit with this cooperation, not only to become one-side cooperation, as example, to send PhD students to outside and couldn't make this connection after they return back to their homes, so that they couldn't benefit from their PhD and something like that.
Yeah.
Also, we will make entrepreneurship programs. And finally, I was selected at the International Science Council. It was big honor for me because it collects all the science advocates from all over the world to appreciate their efforts and to consider them as change makers for the future
Yes.
by science.
Thank you.
Also, I was chosen at Catalyst 2030. It's a big network for social entrepreneurs because, as I told you, that I consider myself as a change maker and
Yes.
also a social entrepreneur because science is big tool to change the society. Because if you consider science, okay, so that you will enhance the life, you will have quality life, not only
Mhm.
life,
Mhm.
quality life, and its main human right to save the quality life for people. So that I
Yes.
was chosen at this. Also, I'm working with marginalized communities. As I told you, that's what I was chosen as member in exile, Science in Exile Network.
Uh,
It's a global effort to support the refugee and at-risk scholars from all over the world because now, if you look at the world, wars
yes.
everywhere,
Yes.
and scientists are one of the problems of this world. Where
Yes.
will they go? And afterward, after the wars will end, I always say that they have to return back to their homes to build. But how to return back to their homes and how to work in foreign countries, this need some kind of dealing with the problems on real basis because
Yes.
these scientists are really fortunate for their homes and for the host countries. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
and also I have so many activities so
Yes,
that
you have. You've done a lot, and we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately. But is there anything you'd like to say to wrap up just your activities? And I'll ask you the next question.
as I told you that in conclusion, I'm working on mindsets. I want to change the bottom up procedure
Yes.
and also to communicate scientists with their societies because the key player in the circle is scientists, but they have to be employed in right way to be connected with their societies so that always we have a missing gap between
Yes.
scientists and society in developing countries. But in developed countries, they find mechanisms to do that. But in developing countries specifically, we have this missing gap.
Yes.
Maybe because of sometimes colonization, sometimes less or less number of educated peoples on high levels or something like that, because ignorance is a big issue in developing countries as well. Also, the misunderstanding of scientists or misunderstanding of the meaning of the role of science in communities. As I told you, that they
Yes.
consider scientists as papers producers,
Yes.
but
Yes.
they are not paper producers only. They have to be advocates and the
Yes.
players in the societies.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. You are amazing. You've done amazing work. You haven't wasted a single moment of your time in your life. So tell us a little bit about how you would define peace, as well as what's the source of your work for peace.
I define this as human right. It's a little bit maybe strange, but it's a human right. The human to live with no conflicts in a quality life with all of his needs fulfilled. It's simple definition of myself because I am living in country multi-civilization. In Egypt, we have civilization 1,000 years before. So that if we look back at our history, it was great. We found all religions and all cultures live together. So that if and we till now. We have different races and different people live together in peace. So that peace, for me, as a scientist, is the right of people to live in quality life, not only in life, in quality life. So that, as I told you, I consider sustainable development goals as my measure. Because if we look to the sustainable development goals, the 17 goals, we will find all of them as human needs. So that the human, a single human needs all these goals, whether from water, from good environment, from energy, education, quality education, and so on. But the most important goal is the 17th goal, is the
Yes.
partnerships.
Peace. Yes.
The most important, which I always consider it as the first goal. And I always say that it must be transferred from the 17th goal to the first one, because it's the most important.
It's the way
Because
we
if,
accomplish
yeah,
all of those
if
things.
we want to make all the 16 goals, we have to
Yes.
work together. We have to
Yes.
cooperate together. We have to
Yes.
make this kind of successful networking. And it was my aim always to make
Mhm.
this piece by science and technology, to make multidisciplinary networks. Networks, it's not nonsense. It's not a nonsense thing, as
Right.
sometimes said. Why networks? It's a wasting of time. No, it's not a wasting for time. We need networking, real networking, successful networking, not only networking, successful and fruitful networking, partnerships between all parties, between all stakeholders, but employee partnerships. That means that we need to focus on rules of these partnerships and the targets.
Yes.
That's why I told you that I adopted the 17th Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes.
And it's my definition for peace. How
Yes.
to make people live together in a respectful way and in good life.
Mhm.
So now if we look to the word, we will find now discrimination, but not the normal discrimination. In addition, that there is normal discrimination, but not the normal discrimination. As I said before recording, that we will find education discrimination because of lack of technology. Because after the COVID-19, all the work transferred to internet. And now there is lack of internet in, as example, in African countries. I returned it back, just returned it back from African country. The internet is very bad. Understand? Even you couldn't make a call, a complete call.
Yes.
Maybe sometimes you need to make short calls, but not lessons. Like now,
Yes.
all the world on internet. So that it's a new problem, discrimination in education because of lack of internet, not only for schools, because now there is new kind of education. It's the education online.
Yes.
And must be, it must be present because during crisis, we found that during crisis and war times and conflicts, we have to have this kind of education so that we have new problem. It's a discrimination in education. Also, there is discrimination in knowledge transfer. In
Mhm.
during COVID-19, only the developed countries who could do these vaccines,
Mhm. Yes.
right? So that
Right.
there is discrimination in
Mhm.
knowledge transfer. And we waited all the developing countries until the vaccines were done from developed countries, and then we started to use it. Why? If we will have fair and real peace, we will have fair knowledge transfer. Also,
Yes.
if we look to conflicts now, if we look to conflicts, we will find maybe 50% of the conflicts depend on the resources. So that if we look to the resources and how to solve these problems, we will find scientists could play a good role. They
Yes.
could, as example, share in solving the problems of water or energy, or at least food. Till now, we have hunger in all over the world, even that it could be solved easily by science.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
by all this, I defined that, that's why I define science and technology is the main key to find peace in the future world, not in the future
Yes.
only, even in the
Yes.
present.
Yes,
But we have
exactly.
to work for,
Yes.
but we have to work for, and we have to have the good definition for peace. Peace, it's not conflict by weapons.
Oh,
Peace, it's how the people could live together by respect and in good life. If
yes.
you will find now any problem related to the sustainable development issues or develop goals, so that these people don't live in peace.
Yes.
It's my
Thank
simple
you.
definition of peace.
Yes, thank you. So we have two questions left and not a whole lot of time. But in your work for peace, of what are you most proud? What are you most proud of in all of your work?
Uh, I'm working on different levels, and I did several organizations, but I am most proud of that I broke the ceiling of expectations as a woman from Egypt
Yes.
and woman scientist. So that
Mm,
the most I am proud of is the breaking up the ceiling of expectation,
yes, I
that
love
you
that.
can do you can do the change even that you are from developing countries, because usually I don't like and I hate this sound that we couldn't do. No, we
Yes,
could do. So that
yes,
how you imagine that you could do organization from developing country and share in development and share in multidisciplinary work, share to connect the people in science, and it began all from developing country. And
yes,
also how to imagine that you find a woman scientist from Egypt to represent the young scientists from developing countries and to share in establishing a big organization to represent the people from all over the world and to make a voice for these people. And
yes,
also, when I was chosen as a representative for researchers from all over the world in the board of directors in ORCID. ORCID, by the way, is the biggest database for scientists from all over the world. So that
mhm,
it was big honor. So that what
yes,
I am proud of, that I break the ceiling
yes, that's
of
perfect.
expectations, and I made what I wanted to do in a perfect way with low cost,
Yes,
with low cost activities, and I convinced others from developed and developing to share with me. And I had lots of friends from all over the world, from all over the world. They understood what I mean, and I built a community,
yes,
scientific based community. They all change makers, so
yes,
that I raise the change makers. And it's all what I'm working for, to change the mindsets, not to change status or to build the
yes,
organization or something, to change the mindsets, to
yes,
convince the people to be change makers, to
yes,
enhance the societies from down to up, from
yes.
bottom up. And so if I will count all the organization, I made about 20 organizations.
It
But
sounds like
in
that.
the finally, in the final word, I changed the mindset.
Yeah,
It's
that's
all what I am proud of.
yes, thank you. And then just a few last words about what you might want others to know about you and your work for peace.
I wanted others to begin with themselves. If you want something, you have to focus on, and you have to develop yourself to be that person which you want, who you want it to be. Okay? So that don't raise your expectations too much, but just work. Just work. If you want to be a doctor, you have to work to be a doctor. Don't expect too much from the others to work for or to give you. You have to change the world by yourself, by your work. So that you have to work at first and then expect the change. We are
Yeah,
all change makers. We are all global citizens. So that every single action in any place in the world will affect the total world and the whole society. so that
Yes.
don't complain too much. You have to work. Don't raise to your voice without work. Always work and dream. But dream and work. Complain and work. If you want to change the world, work. Develop
Yes.
yourself. Make your dreams and work. So that
Yes.
in any word, you have to connect all your activities with work. And also, you have to respect others. You have to respect yourself. And also, don't expect too much from the others. And also, as a scientist, I have to raise this issue. We are like messengers. We have to work for nothing, for no appreciation, work just for humanity. We were born to make like that. We choose this way. Don't speak about. We have no appreciation. The societies don't feel about us. We are working in dark. No, we are not working in dark. We are working for ourselves, for the society, for the humanity. And afterward, at the final way, in the dark, then you will find light.
Yes, that's great.
So that it's my main concept in this world. I'm working for humanity. And that's why I established my new organization, Science for Humanity. And I
Yes.
hope it will be successful. By the way, we will make two branches, one in Egypt and one in Italy with Italian friends. Most
Uh-huh.
of my friends, 70% of my friends, by the way, are from outside Egypt. Because as I told you that I consider science as a universal tool of change so
Yes.
that it has no borders. That's why I made this name, Women in Science Without Borders. Without borders means without political or religious or gender borders. We are
Perfect.
all humans. We are all working together. So that it's my final word. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Amal.